If you're looking for a great thumbnail format, here are 25 thumbnail compositions that have already worked for countless of channels. Number 1. The Outlier. In the Outlier thumbnail format, you have a group of people on one side and one single person on the other side. The idea here is that we group something together to demonstrate that there's a lot of one thing, but that there's something that stands out. We can do this with people, but we can also do this with objects. We could have 100 sheep on one side and then one sheep on the other side that looks slightly different, but it doesn't have to even look different. Simply because we have one standing out, we're going to pay attention to that one that is separated from the group. Number 2 is the Enhancement Circle. In the Enhancement Circle, we take a normal picture. However, we take a circle that shows a zoomed in part of some aspect of the picture. For example, if we have two people playing tag and we want to show a wide shot of one person trying to touch the other person, we might want to show how close that person really is. So in that case, we take a circle that shows a zoomed in version of the hand almost touching the shirt, and then we can connect it through an arrow, through a line, or simply we have the circle over that main thing to just add some emphasis and make what's important slightly bigger than what's around it. Also, here's an example where we do the exact same thing, but rather than just showing a zoomed in version of this one, we show what's inside. Number 3, comments. This thumbnail format isn't used as much these years anymore, but it is actually still a great one because it still works. And that is the idea that you have a person in the middle with comments around them. You can also just take away the person and add more comments, but these are great when you're doing something interactive with your audience, such as reading comments and turning it into a song. The only note I have to give is do think about making it aesthetically pleasing, because else it can quickly look messy, and that's not what you want to have, because clutter can distract and make something look less good. But talking about clutter and many elements, number 4, options. And in options, instead of just seeing comments, what we show is the different options that we have, and this is very good in educational content. So let's say that we're doing a tech video where we show what kind of options you have if you want to buy a phone. In that case, what you can have is one person in the middle and all 4 or 5 or 6 tech options above the head. This demonstrates to the viewer, hey, we're going to discuss a lot of different options and we're going to take a look at which one might be the best. If you already want to tease the fact that you're going to highlight the best one, what you can do is you can have these bubbles, let's say 4 tech products, and you have little crosses over 3 of them and a little green check mark over 1 of them. You blur it a little bit and that shows them that you're going to actually review it and select one at the end of the video. And talking about options, sometimes you only want 2 of them. This brings us to number 5, choice. On YouTube, you've probably seen the 2-panel layout. This is where you divide your thumbnail into 2 parts. In choice, you provide the viewer with an option of A and B. So you could have on the left side, you could have something in completely red, and on the right side, you have something completely blue. And this gives the viewer the illusion that this video is about a choice. Number 6, the group shot. The group shot is often used when you have 5 people in your screenshot. Sometimes people try to go for 6 or 7, but it gets too cluttered. 5 tends to be enough. And what you do to make this one work is often you make the middle person slightly bigger or give him a different shirt to make him or her stand out from the crowd. Often you will find that these thumbnails do have a little bit of text in the middle on the top as a title to give slightly more context towards the viewer. But yes, the group shot has worked multiple of times. Number 7, this is one that I really like and it's called proximity. Proximity is where we take a person or an object and place it so it's very close to another one. This is where we have, let's say, Mr. Beast laying down, we have the chainsaw about to cut him in half. That would be proximity. But it's not just that one, it's also used, let's say we have balloon on the ground and the car is about to drive over it. It's a very, very famous example. The last example is you have a massive hole, the train is pushing towards it, and you have proximity that way. Now, if we want to do this more in the educational setting, we could have proximity where, for example, we're about to drop a spoon of oil in a hot pan, and that way we can create a little bit of a sense of proximity. The idea of proximity is just to create a sense of conflict, to show action that's about to happen. Number 8, the uncertainty statement. This thumbnail is often used if you want to create a sense of uncertainty, mystery. This is where you'll see, for example, a person in a tub of water trying to survive it, and we have, is it possible? We might have a person standing, we have a basketball rim literally like a mile away, and we throw the ball and we show the trajectory, and then we ask the question or we put the text, is this possible? impossible. This is also where we can go very obscure and not make the viewer really understand what's going on. This is where we have a thumbnail that it says 1 + 1 = 3, and then we add the question, is this mathematically possible? Again, we're creating this sense of mystery around our thumbnail. But talking about possibility, sometimes just giving the viewer the impossible is also a thumbnail format, and that one is called the impossible. In this thumbnail format, which has already gone viral multiple times, you just show something that is just technically not possible. So for example, a train floating, you know that's the impossible. But you also have 0 = 1 or 1 hour = 7 years. We have those type of things and we know it's not possible. We're showcasing this is impossible. But for some reason, some of these thumbnails work really well and they actually intrigue people to click. This is where I have to provide you with some caution though, because the impossible, if people feel like, oh, this is actually impossible, they're not going to click. So it's all about the uncertainty here and making it just believable enough, but still uncertain that the viewer has the sense of impossibility. Number 10, large numbers. I don't know what it is about large numbers, but for some reason it works really good, especially with younger audiences. This is where you often see a Minecraft YouTuber use an obscure number, like I duplicated 576,169 blocks. And now we see that number on the thumbnail with under it the multiplication of those blocks and a visual representation of the title, and that's what we use. But again, sometimes this can work with an older audience where we show a big number such as $16 million and we show a mention under that one, and that way we give the context that this mention is $16 million. This can work fantastic, but also again, you want to make it believable. Number 11 is the mid-action medium shot. So this is where we are rather zoomed in onto our subject, onto you as a person, and if something is happening to you or you're mid-action. So for example, you're in the middle of taking a sip from a jug of milk. Don't ask me how I got to milk, it just came up to my mind. Or you have something that is being dropped on you. There's one creator who has had a fantastic thumbnail like this, and that creator is Tom Scott. The dice are thrown at him, it's absolutely fantastic shot. But the concept here is that unlike just showing a face that is static, we show something is happening to this person. It brings the image alive. Number 12. The attention circle. We've addressed this earlier that we can use a circle to enhance and zoom into something, but sometimes you just want to use a little red circle around something to bring attention to this one. Let's say that we have a shot of a forest with a lot of trees. Without that attention circle, we don't know where to focus, and not having a central focus point often makes it hard to grab somebody's attention and get them invested in the shot. This also applies to retention, by the way. So when we add a circle, suddenly it gives us an illusion that we have to pay attention to something. And sometimes it gives the illusion that there's context even when there isn't. In our example with the trees, I mean, without the attention circle, none of the trees stand out, and if we keep the same image and we just add a circle, suddenly it feels like we have to pay attention to this one tree, even if that tree looks exactly the same as the other trees. Number 13, the staircase. Viewers love progression. They love a sense that things are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Sometimes you can do smaller as well. This is what we call positive progression for the bigger and smaller when things get smaller. In this staircasing thumbnail, we show 3 or more elements because again, 2 is just a comparison, 3 really becomes that staircasing effect, and then we can add a number to it. So for example, 10 year, 30 year, 40 years. The idea here is that we're showcasing that, hey, this video has a sense of progression to it, which can be very, very attractive for making viewers click on this video. And that brings us to number 14, the conversation topic. In the conversation topic, you have a head on each side of the thumbnail. Then you have some object or some person in the middle that it seems like we're going to talk about. So for example, on one side we have one person, then the other person, and in the middle we have a camera. And that way we know, oh, we're going to talk about the camera, or they're going to talk about the camera. Or we replace that with a retention chart, and then we know that's going to be a discussion about a retention chart. Or a subscribe button, reminding you that you should subscribe. Anyways, moving on. Number 15, interaction. We've already talked about proximity, we've already talked about 2 people, and let's start combining those 2. You'll often see a shot where you have one person, often on the left side, really big, and then behind him is another person slightly smaller, reaching out their hand and touching the other person. This is the case where we see 2 people and they're interacting with each other in a way by touching each other. It's a great way to showcase connection, and often this is mid-action and it shows that, hey, this is the protagonist, this is the antagonist. The main thing I want to say about this one is that often people are positioned diagonally. So one person tends to be bigger than the other person. The next three are very similar to each other, but they have vast differences. We talked about the progression, but there's multiple aspects of progression. These are the states of progression. So number 16 is the begin state. In the begin state, we show something such as a thumbnail that says 0 subscribers. This would be the begin state. Or let's say we have a field and then you are standing there with a shovel and the title of this video is something like building my dream house. This would be the begin state. Nothing has been done yet and we're about to go on this journey. You can already see how the next two are going to relate to this one, where we have 17, which is the progression state. Let's say we take the same house thumbnail with the grass field and now suddenly we see the basement kind of being there. Well, at that point we're showing that we're in the middle of the progression. In the example of the subscribers, now we're showing that it's 500 subscribers. So we showed it as an aspect of progression. There's also one other one that is often used, which is when you're in the middle of something and you have like 7 days up top and you show that you're suffering. That's another thumbnail example of progression or the progressive state. So there's multiple options here. And the last one is the end state. It's the finished product. This is great. Now often people think that, oh, we shouldn't be showing the end state because that is too revealing. But I can tell you this, with superhero movies, we already know the superhero is going to win. Is that going to make you less likely to watch those movies? No, because what it is that the end state is a promise to the viewer that you're going to deliver for all the time they spend on your video. So if you're wondering, revealing something in your thumbnail is not a bad idea. So let's do another grouping one, and the next three are also going to belong very, very close to each other. But they're great, and I've already teased towards them before. It's the 3-panel layout, the 4-panel layout, or one of the 2-panel layouts. The panel layout can be used for more than just a choice, which is what I highlighted earlier. The panel layout can be used for a before and after. So that would be our number 19 is the before after shot. Or let's go to number 20, the yes or no. So this is the state where you have a check mark on one and the cross on the other one to show like, hey, this is a good thing and this is a bad thing. Bonus one, you can also have something what we call the state comparison. The state comparison is simply one where you show how something looks in one state and then you show how it looks in a different state. Number 21 is the 3-panel. The 3-panel is very popular. It's the one where you have the before, middle and after. You have the 1 year, 10 year, 100 years. All of those thumbnails work fantastic. There's a reason why you see it everywhere in the gaming channels, but this also applies elsewhere. Let's say you have a fitness channel and you want to show the states of progression throughout your video. That's a great thing. If you really want to, you can also have the 4-panel one, which is often used like easy, medium, hard, impossible. But if you want to convey 4 options, but not have the 4-panel layout, you could do what we would call the quadrant. And the quadrant is great. It's very similar to options, but has a different layout structure. And in the quadrant, you have 4 aspects. Your thumbnail kind of becomes 4 thumbnails, really. Or what you could even do, and this is what's often done, is you could put yourself in the middle. So you have a quadrant, and then you put yourself in the middle, which makes it 5 focus points. It's a lot, but this thumbnail composition has performed before. One great example is Alex Emolzi has done this before, and then other people started copying his exact design. Maybe he copied, I don't know, but it's a good thumbnail composition. Now for the next 3, and by the way, I have like 50 more of these written down, so if you really like this video and this video does well, then I will share those 50 more as well. First, we have size comparison. In size comparison, we show one thing being very big and something being very small. And this can be done in many ways. So for example, you have a big car and you're very, very small there. You can add a little arrow to add extra attention with the words me. But the idea here is that we convey scale. One other example here is that the Mr. Beast pizza video is a massive pizza slice. You have a person behind it and we can see size. It's also used when people use the tallest man in the world and then the shortest woman in the world and then put them in the same thumbnail, and that way we can see a size comparison again. You know, earlier we talked about giving the answer, giving an impossible answer, but now let's guess the answer. So we could use 5 plus 4 equals something. And this is where we can go really wild. I mean, I think some of you have seen those mobile ads before where we see a puzzle in front of us and then we're asked to solve this. And yes, this can be done in the thumbnail. One other example is that we have the trolley problem and we say, what would happen? And that brings us to the last one of this one. And this one, I'm gonna give it a very special name because I like this one. It's called The Man with the Fish. Now you're gonna recognize this and I'm just gonna show you a compilation. But this is where you have a person just showcasing their product. So to end this video, here are 10 examples of The Man with the Fish. Great retention.